Hey guys, so sorry in advance if you're going to hear a lot of the ventilation system in here. There's no quiet spot to film here in the shop, but I figured I would run you guys through this, which is the final group project that I did right before I graduated. So let's dive into it. So for those of you who aren't aware, the prompt for the project was deceptively simple, and the actual solution, well, it's actually kind of simple, but everything in between was somewhat complex. So our prompt for the class was we were going to try and come up with a solution to the very real problem of purple sea urchin overpopulation. In this case, in the Northern California area, the Mendocino, Fort Bragg, all up in there. The cause is multifold. One of them is a long time ago, all the sea otters, went away. People love their pelts, and they are a natural predator to the sea urchins. Couple that with the fact that we've had some warmer water currents that would come into the area, along with a die-off of the sunflower sea stars that are out there that also love to eat the purple urchin, and the urchin just went from being a little garbage man and cleaning up the bottom to going, ooh, we like eating real kelp, and have just decimated the kelp forest out there, which also has a knock-on effect for all the other animals that rely on the ecosystem. So it wasn't until we did our field trip up to Mendocino, Fort Bragg area, and we were talking to urchin diver Grant Downey that he dropped this absolutely great answer to my question. I'm curious, both from a current resources standpoint and from a theoretical and limited resources standpoint, what would be your solution to the problem, being that you're a diver, you're down there, you've built traps, that sort of thing?
It would be coming in and offloading food market urchins to the food market, or coming in and offloading restoration caught urchins to a buyer that is utilizing them for a non-consumptive use. So it's the same thing. I'm just going out and commercially harvesting this product. It would just feel ethically better that I'm not just working under grant funding, especially what's going on right now in politics. I don't know what's going to happen with grant funding. So if I was able to go out and do kelp restoration, I'm benefiting because I'm getting a paycheck. The reefs are benefiting because they're getting their population of urchins decreased to an amount that kelp can regrow, or we can outplant kelp to help it regrow. And then at the same time, the company that is buying these urchins is going to benefit because they're going to profit and be able to put it out to a consumer. So right now for kelp restoration, I'm benefiting financially, the reefs are benefiting. Stops.
With that in mind, we then went over to the Noyo Center, which is also trying to find ways to deal with the urchin overpopulation problem, and massive thank you to the volunteers over there who were gracious enough to let me dunk my GoPro inside their tanks. Like, you guys were amazing. So if you're ever in that area, highly recommend checking them out. They're doing some amazing stuff on a shoestring budget. But we really like the concept as a group of them, rearing the urchin in captivity with the intention that you could eat them. They offered uni samples. I personally did not try any that time just because of the fact that I don't do well on long bus rides. I can get kind of motion sick. But I said to myself, otherwise, 10 out of 10, I would have given it a try. Everybody who tried it said it was amazing. But the concept that we came up with was, well, the urchins that are being pulled out of there have no real harvestable meat inside of them. They're effectively starving. They can go into a zombie state for multiple decades. So we were thinking, well, we could feed them table scraps. They've kind of done that over in the Noyo Center. So the idea was to take that concept and make it into more of a self-contained unit, if you will, like what you see here. So once we decided as a group that's what we were going to do, we kind of split off into our own respective categories and went from there. Being that I have a lot of CAD experience, a lot of manufacturing experience, and also the model train scenery experience, that was my field of focus, was the CAD design and building everything. But I do have to hand it to my three other group mates for tackling things like the renders and the presentation that we ended up doing, and this really cool faux screen that's on here. Without them, this project would not look as good as it does, so I want to give credit where credit is due. That being said though, this is my base design. One of my other group mates came up with his own design, which was good, but we opted to go for this one instead. Another one of my group mates, she found this giant acrylic sphere online. It was like $80 shipped to her door, which when you consider for an 18-inch diameter acrylic sphere, it's actually a really good price. This was actually designed for use in, I believe, like lighting applications and stuff, but you could do some insane things with this with cosplay, and I'll put a link to it down in the description below. Then on the top here we have our fake filtration assembly that I designed and printed, and on the inside, I'm not going to pull it out because it's a pain with the urchin on there, but we have our fake rock. So what I handled was the base, not the screen, the fake filter assembly, the ring around the top, because we ended up making the opening larger, because to get this with the size of opening that we wanted was going to add too much time to the lead time on this, and we figured we could do a similar thing pretty easily with hand tools, and that's what we ended up doing. The rock itself on the inside is actually pink insulation foam that I covered with plaster cloth. Then I coated the plaster cloth with some just neutral grayish acrylic paint, figuring if anything got chipped it would help hide the white plaster cloth. Then I went over that with a mixture of sand and some grout that I picked up for free from the Thousand Oaks Toxic Waste Reuse program. I swear that thing is amazing. It is unsanded grout that I mixed with some sand and sprinkled that on there, and then just misted everything down with some high-proof rubbing alcohol. Now the trick with the rubbing alcohol is you want to mist it enough just to dampen it, but then let it sit for 15 to 30 minutes so the moisture has time to soak in. Lightly spray it down again. Do that about 4 to 8 times over an hour or two, depending upon how much you do it, and that should be enough. If you really want to lock it in place, you can go over it with some white glue, but just be warned, if you do that, you do run the risk of having some discoloration from the glue, so bear that in mind. When I got done, I did decide to spray this down with some matte finish, and that sort of worked to a point, but it did cause some problems when I was trying to stick the ground foam on here using some diluted white glue, because instead of just soaking right in, it kind of pulled up on the surface. Thankfully I was able to work around that, but it kind of made things somewhat trickier, so just bear that in mind if you're going to do something like this. I'm not saying it was a smart decision, I'm not saying it was a stupid decision, it's just that's what happened. Now as for the fake urchins on the inside, those were also the creation of one of my classmates. He drew them up pretty quick in Rhino, and I 3D printed them, threw some spray paint on them, and said, you know what, close enough is good enough. So this right here is the final project that I did for a group project, and I have to say I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Sure, I wish I'd made the filter assembly maybe like an inch or two shorter because it sat a little higher in here than I thought and things like that, but you know what, those are minor details. When we did our presentation, we had amazing feedback from not only our class instructor, but another instructor who actually was also my advisor through the program, as well as 3 independent people who had absolutely no clue what the projects were going to be in this class, which honestly was really, really cool. So, hope you guys found this interesting, and as for the fate of this project, well, I know I don't have space for this. I know I'm not hauling it back home on Caltrain, but the plan is at least one of my classmates has offered to take it in because it is such a unique model that we came up with. So that's currently the plan, and I hope it doesn't end up in the dumpster because that'd be kind of a shame. All right, see you guys later.